Well, welcome everybody to Breaking the Silence. You have a voice. Today we have our last show that we're going to be talking about this month on relationships. We've been talking about relationships rules all month long. But this show right here, because last week we talked about what the ladies wanted in their man. This week we want to hear from the guys. And so we have some special guests today, and they're going to talk about what men really want in their woman. Do they want a mother or do they want a wife? So I'm excited about hearing what the guys have to say. But before we get started, we want to welcome our viewers. We want to welcome our Caribbean jammers to the show and everybody that's viewing on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram and all of our platforms. I am your host, Lady V, and we have Dr. Yvonne Bennett today. How are you today, Dr. Bennett?
Doing well, doing well, doing well.
Great, great. And you all rested up from your trip? I know you took a trip.
All rested up from my trip.
Awesome, awesome. And we have the beautiful Pastor Melanie Butler. How are you? You didn't change
I'm
hair on.
doing
It looks great.
Yes, thank you. I am doing well. Thank you.
Awesome. And we have Dr. Isaac Davis. How's it going, Dr. Isaac?
What's up? What's how things going?
It's going well. How was your trip?
Oh man, 2 weeks of traveling.
LA. How was LA?
I was in
Great.
Houston the week
Houston.
before
Okay,
last.
one of my favorite places. I'll
Then
be
I
there
was
in
in
2 weeks. All
then I
right.
was in LA last week. So now I'm resting.
Okay. All right. And we have our two special guests today. So I want to introduce somebody that I'm close to that, if it wasn't for me, because you always see my beautiful mom, but I want to introduce my handsome, wonderful dad, Bishop Eddie Bennett. So how you doing today, Dad?
Excited. Amen. Good to be on the show.
Got you on the show.
Mhm.
Yes. Well, welcome, welcome. And we have a young man that I grew up with that I had the privilege to know when he was younger, and now he's still young, but he's older and a
Amen.
dad and a husband. He done grew up on me, used to be in the youth choir, and now he's a pastor. So we want to welcome Pastor AT to the show. Welcome, Pastor.
God bless you. Thank you for having me. And it's definitely an honor. And I'm excited to be here today.
Right. So we want to hear from the guys today, and feel free to make comments in the comment box. We'll try to answer any questions that you might have. But let's go. Let's talk about it. So we always put a large emphasis on. It was funny. I read something the other day, and it was saying what men and women wanted from their mates, and surprisingly it was only four things that men wanted from a woman. I don't know if anybody saw that. Four things. But then when it looked at the list of what women wanted from a man, it came up to 50.
I'm not surprised. I'm not
The list
surprised.
was so long, and I thought it was so funny because I was like, wow, that's a lot. Are we that demanding, ladies? I
Yes,
mean,
you are.
okay, all right, just chime in there. Just
Yes, y'all are. You
okay.
know, I know that it's common that women always got that all this. They have all these things that they want in a man, but I always say something simple. Don't ever request something that you're not portraying yourself.
Mm, okay, right. So you kicking it off. Okay, so when you say that, what are you saying that we should portray that men want? Oh, he got a list.
Oh yes, I do have a list. Yes, I do. Yes,
How
I
did
do. A whole list.
I know?
So and it's sitting right here in front of me, so I can just read it.
Okay.
But honestly, everything that you want in a man is what you should be doing yourself as well. Everything I want in a woman is what I should be doing already. Um, so I think that we can get beyond the four standard qualities, right?
Mhm.
Loyalty, respect, honor, integrity in your character, and Yes, and also financially smart. Uh, so I think that once we get beyond that, the list then can just go either way that you choose for it to go. It's all about what you like.
Okay.
Honestly, I think you sell yourself short if you do it that way, because the way God had intended it is for the woman to be a helpmeet or a complement to the man. So if you do it that way, you both bringing the same things to the table, and so you really don't get too far if she's bringing oranges and you bringing oranges. Well, if she brings oranges and I bring apples, then now I got a fruit salad. So really,
Mhm.
I think for men, they really look for what complements them. And to answer your question, as far as why women's list is so long, I think it's because what they want pretty much flows and changes. You know, it's very, they're very emotional and passionate, and so passions flow and change and different things. And so, a friend of mine once told me, he says, "Listen, if you're dealing with a woman, sometimes they want a hamburger. Okay, you give them hamburger, but then sometimes you want steak. So if you're the husband and you're hamburger, you need to make sure that you give her cheeseburger, bacon cheeseburger, barbecue. You need to kind of change it up and keep it variety moving so that she really kind of sees the variety. And so when you give me 50 things, that means that you really don't know exactly what you want. You want some of everything, but you can't have everything. So that means you really don't know what you want.
Amen to
That's a
that.
good point, because what I was going to say is sometimes we think we know what we want.
Mhm.
However, one thing I like with the spouse and your help me is that they can bring out things in you that you didn't even know
Yes.
was in you. And so you're like, wow, I didn't know that was in me, and it's to help cultivate and grow not only you, but to grow him as well. And something that you said, Pastor AT, there is sometimes where with women, well, the ebbs and flows of a woman, and there's sometimes this year I may want to start up my business, or I may want to start a clothing line, and then next year I don't want to do that anymore. How about if I start up a jewelry line? So but the one thing with the spouse is that spouse is there, and I think what we all want is that spouse to be supportive of what it is that you want, and to help grow and develop the gifts that's down on the inside.
And and
That's
and,
true.
and to that, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going
Yes.
to say to that point, men typically are more stable, they're more firm, they're more direct in what they want. So sometimes men don't understand that now you want to open up a nursing business and then next week you want to open up a salon. For us as men, we have to be flexible to that and understand that what they're doing is just what they're trying to figure out for themselves to make them happy and fulfill their destiny. And as a man, my job is to be stable. I don't have the luxury of being wishy-washy and still trying to figure things out. That's the reason why if you're a young man, you're trying to get married, you shouldn't get married while you're, I don't believe you should get married while you're young, because you're still trying to figure something out. And you can't have two people trying to figure this thing out, because she's going to be trying to do this thing for a while. And somebody needs to have the stability, at least in my opinion, in that relationship. And usually the onus is on the husband to do that.
Valid point.
May I say
Valid
something?
point.
Can I say a few things?
Go ahead.
Well, we're talking about what men want in a woman. So why don't we just go back there? I think Pastor Melody kind of went in a different direction and talking about her vision and the vision that women have. But from a man's perspective, again, they don't want a mother; they want a wife.
Mm.
And they don't want for their wives to try to change them. See, women have a tendency to want this imaginary man,
Hmm.
and
Mm.
so she really don't want what she's getting ready to get or have. She wants something, uh, as some women put it, someone phenomenal. Out of the extraordinary. But you have to deal with what you have, because when you try to make a person over, then they get turned off, and now you have some issues in the relationship. In fact, the Song of Solomon, the second chapter, verse 15, says this: Solomon had many wives. You know, if you read the Bible, you find out that he had 700 wives and 300 concubines, which means that, you know, he had a whole lot of women. But he met this one special woman that knew how to encourage him, that knew that wanted him not because he was a king, but because he was a man. See, there's a man underneath that kingly robe and all that other stuff that, you know, men wear. And men just want to know, if there are 10 men in the room, I'm the biggest man there.
Yeah.
I don't want to be small in the room with other men. I want to be big. And women have a tendency sometimes to get with their friends and they talk about their man, and sometimes they start comparing. You can't compare your man to other men. He's the biggest thing in your life. Even if your father's there, if he's in the room, your man should fill up that room instead of any of the other men. In other words, what I'm saying is, in fact, the Song of Solomon, that 15th verse, the second chapter, the Shulamite woman, brothers, was counseling the wise man Solomon, telling him that in a relationship and marriage, you have to look out for the little foxes. In other words, it's not the big things. Of course, big things can destroy a relationship, but it's the little things that people overlook in the courtship that they bring over into the marriage that destroys the vine. In other words, see, a little fox can't reach the grapes over the fence. See, they can't climb the fence like the big foxes. So what they have to do, they have to dig under the fence,
Right.
Yeah.
and eat at the root. And when they eat the roots, see, the vine will die and begin to droop, and the grapes will come down to them.
Right.
So it's those little things that you have to really be mindful of in a relationship, or they can destroy the relationship.
Right.
Well,
And
one of the things.
sometimes,
Go ahead. Go ahead, Bishop. Go ahead.
yes,
Go
it's
ahead.
the little things, nitpicking. You know, none of us are literate in every area. There's some illiteracy in all of us. In other words, there's some things we are good, we know a lot about, and there's some things we know little about. And it's those that illiterate part of us can be picked on. In other words, nitpicking in a relationship is one of the things that can destroy the person. You marry who you marry, and you have to accept that person and not try to change them, is what I'm saying. Because
Right.
once you try to make that person over, then you're going to lose them.
Right.
So when you say, okay, so what I've always heard a lot of men say, you know, that is a major turnoff is when we switch over to trying to be a man's mother. So that's why I said, are we a mother or a wife? Where do we go wrong, and how do we get to that mother point? Is it because we don't feel confident in our men making decisions? Is it they're not doing it the way we want them to do it? Is it we're controlling? Is it by nature we're nurturers? What causes us to slip from being a wife? Because one thing about a wife, and I kind of think that there's a major difference. You know, a wife is that help me. We are that, you know, there's certain things that men look for in a woman, in a wife.
Mm-hmm.
A mother is not one of them. So when we slip over to mother mode, that causes him to slip into a different mode, because now the things that we want him to do, we want him to romance us, we want him to take us here, we want him to do these. He can't do that with his mom. So once he starts seeing you as a mom,
Mm-hmm.
distorts his way of thinking, because he's like, this is what my mother would tell me.
Mhm.
My mother would tell me what to wear. My mother would tell me where to go. My mother would tell me who I can talk to. My mother would tell me this. And now the dynamics of the relationship changes. So where do we go wrong? And I would like to hear a little bit from the ladies on this, because women do it. We're guilty of it. We get with these wonderful men, and then we think that we have to guide them and tell them everything because they don't do everything like us. And I like what you said, by the way, Pastor AT, that we are different. So where do we go wrong? Ladies.
Okay, I'm
I
so
think-
happy you asked that question.
You go ahead.
Growing up in the household, my mother ran the household.
Okay.
So everything that was done, it was my mother. What my mother said, that's what went. Not until it came to a point where it was, Dent, get this girl, or then he would step in. But for the most part, it was my mother who ran the household. So when I got married, guess what I tried to do? I tried to run our household, not knowing the order of God, because of course I was not raised in a Christian home. And then Pastor, him being raised in a Christian home and knowing the order that the man is the head of the household. So in the beginning of our marriage, I was trying to put down the law. He was putting down the law. And so here it was, you had both of us trying to be in control. And it wasn't until I went to Panama and learning from Mother Robinson, the man is the head of household. And just because he's the head of household, you come together to make a decision. But ultimately, he has the ultimate say so. And it wasn't until I got there that I learned the role. And guess what? It's not for me to run the household. It's for the man to run the household. And when you look at it I'm going to say it's very common in an African American community to where you have a lot of single mothers. So here it is, you have single mothers raising young men. So he's learning from her. So there's times where he gets into a relationship. Well, my mom did everything. I didn't have to say anything. This is what she did. She's the one who pretty much paved the way. She told me what to do. It was that influence. So I believe from there, it goes into a marriage, and that's where he may take a step back and finds a woman like his mom who's going to run the household, who's going to say, you're going to wear this, you're going to wear that. This is what we're doing. This is what we're not doing, because he didn't see a male version doing that. So he takes a step back because all he's seen and known was his mom doing it. And that's where I believe that's where the issue comes in at.
Well, I want to say, and that's good. That's Pastor
Dr. Bennett?
I want to say, I want to direct my answer directly to Lady V. I think one of the ways, because it's a lot of ways, but this is just one that I want to zero in on. It's a wise woman that builds her house, but it's a foolish woman that plucks it down with her own hands. And sometimes women, and all that Pastor Melanie said is accurate, but sometimes women misinterpret things. Just because a man asks you for your opinion doesn't mean you step in and tell him how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and a lot of us have been guilty of that. And, and when they start out to do something because they didn't do it like you would do it, we jump in and correct them. That is not right. What is wrong with you? Where did you come from? No. You men and women think differently, and it doesn't matter. This is how we run the ship in our house. It don't matter how you do it, as long as it get done. And it don't matter who does it, as long as it get done. So, I think that's one of the things that we one of the ways we start to be a man's mother, portraying the image of a mother. They'll ask you for something, and then from another aspect, because a man, and sometimes men may move a little differently. I don't like that word slower. Differently. than we do. He may be thinking because he's not fast enough. Doesn't mean he's not moving because he's not fast enough. So we step in and right away, and many women have done it even with the children. You don't dress the child right. And that's why a lot of these children are so attached to the mother because they were never released to the dad for the dad to put the diaper on wrong or dad to put on the right color shirt to coordinate and so forth and so on. So he didn't brush his nappy hair in the back. So what? Ain't nobody looking. Ain't nobody looking. Leave men alone. They do what they do. And a lot of women are guilty of that. And that's how they fall into that mother role.
Amen.
May I say something?
Now, I do want to make a comment to that. What you said is very true. Is that the reason that men are cautious with the decisions that we have to make is because that the weight of our decision affects our entire household.
Right.
So it's not that
Vision.
we're slow. It's the fact that we have to think through it to
Right.
make sure that when we make this decision, that it doesn't negatively
Right.
affect our household.
Right.
Yeah,
And also,
for me, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bishop, and then I'm gonna jump on that point. Sorry about that.
also that being hesitant is because we don't want to get shot down. We don't want to get
Yeah.
criticized.
That's
You know,
good.
because
Mhm.
sometimes you make a mistake. Case in point would be, as a young man, I used to try to fix things around the house, and if I messed it up,
Mhm.
I get criticized.
That is very true.
Yeah,
That
and
is
you
very
learn
true.
it.
Hey, right?
True.
I'm OJT. I'm learning on the job.
That's right.
Yep.
But you get a finger pointed in your face. Why did you do that?
That's
You
right.
don't think about that. But let him mess it up. If you have to call
Yes.
the man,
Yeah.
you have to call him in anyway. If you have
That's
to
right.
call the man, call the man. But don't shoot him down.
That's
Uh,
right.
Amen.
see,
Amen.
we understand that they came out of Eve. They are like Eve. They like to kind of take charge. Eve took charge in the garden. And so leaving that tree alone, she ate it and she gave it to Adam. Now he had a choice. But sometimes, women can put pressure on you to a point where you go ahead and do it just to keep peace. You want peace in your home, so you eat food that you don't have a desire for. Now, women and men, in fact, God put Adam and Eve in the garden to complement each other. I think someone
Mhm.
said it already, not to compete against each other. See, in our home, and we've been married a long time, so we've learned a lot of things through trial and
Yes.
error. It's a
Mhm.
learning process. You're going to make mistakes. But the thing is, when we make mistakes, let's not shoot each other down.
That's
Let's
right.
Right.
not
Right.
tell them, well, I don't have any confidence in you anymore.
My
And
God.
sometimes some have that, they have that thing about them where they lose confidence in their man because he mess up certain things.
Mhm.
But we've learned that, there's something that she's better at than I am. That's what complimenting each other is
Mhm.
all about.
Amen.
Mhm.
If she can do it better than me, go for it.
Right.
Because as the head, you should be able to delegate and have confidence in your spouse to a point where you don't get intimidated by that.
Mhm.
That's right.
You let her
That's right.
go because you know that she's better at it. But
Mhm.
again, we're talking about what men expect out of their wives, and that is trust me in this. Even if I make a mistake doing it, trust me. Don't say my daddy would have done it a different way,
Right.
or my uncle would have done it a different way. Let me handle this. If I can learn if I make the mistake.
That's
Sometimes
right.
it's a learning process, and we just need to just be given the chance to learn from it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
it.
I'm 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 gonna I'm gonna jump there and then I'm gonna go. I may disagree with all you guys, but I'll tie it in together where we agree. So on what Dr. Isaac was saying, men have the unique ability to be able to have the vision for the household, which includes the children and also the wife. If everybody stays in line and plays their role properly, then they follow the vision and everybody gets to where they're supposed to go. It's only a problem when people want to be out of pocket. As fathers, if you're dealing with your children, you know that there's some kids that you have to encourage to push out, and then you always got some other kids that you got to bring back in. And so, same thing with your wife. You nurture her, find out what her vision is, but make sure that her vision is inside of the family vision. But you're responsible for all, and that's the reason why one reason why we wait and we do things calculated and try not to move too quickly, because we're trying to figure out what are the first, second, third order of effects of these things. Now, here's where I somewhat disagree. And at first, when I looked at the topic, I said, do men want a mother or a wife? Initially, I said no, because nobody wants to have that Oedipus type mindset, and no man wants things to be beat over their head. But then I began to think about this. I said, children live what they learn. Their best examples of a happy relationship, or what a father's supposed to be like, or what a mother's supposed to be like, is by looking at their parents. So when I look at what I desire in a mate, my first example is, what does my father have? I look at my dad as being successful. He's being strong. He's in ministry. What does he have in his life? So I realized later on that I'm attracted to strong women who know how to be supportive. So if I have somebody who's weak-minded, don't speak their mind, I like opinionated women who tell me what they think. Don't sit back and just let me do whatever I want to, because I'm a strong man and I'm gonna get out there, and I do need somebody to be like, baby, you need to think about this, because you're not looking at it from this angle, because I wasn't designed to look from that angle. You're designed to look from that angle. So in that case, I looked at it, I said, you know what? The issue is not that we find our women become our mothers, because truthfully, we have picked women. If we had good examples, we've picked women who have those attributes. The issue is when the woman cannot have maturity and tell the difference between when you're dealing with the husband versus when you're dealing with the children. When you treat me like a child, then we have an issue.
Right.
I got all these kids and stuff. When you talk to them, that's one way. I expect you to talk to them that way. But when you're talking to me, and don't give me the child spill. And that's where the conflict has, because there's a level of disrespect or a lack of understanding what authority is. And that's where I look at it, where it's like the question may not be as clear cut as you may think. The problem is when people don't follow their particular path in that vision and be who they're called to in that household.
Right.
So what I want to say in that aspect then, because I've found that a lot of times, since we're talking about strong women, because in our culture, we are strong women. We've been taught to be strong. Why is it that men struggle with telling their wives the truth? Because a lot of times the truth will hurt us. It will, and initially, but then we get better because you tell us. So when I say that, if you want your wife to lose weight, why you can't tell her? If you want her to cook better, why you can't tell her? If you want to tell her that she's controlling, why you can't tell her? If you want to tell her, I'm gonna break it down, because I know.
No, I got your answer though. I got your answer.
If you want her to be sexier, then why not tell her? If you want her to change her hair and you want it to look better, why not tell her? If you want to be more innovative, why not tell her? If you know that she is a bad housekeeper, then why won't you tell her? Whatever the problem is, why keep it to yourself? Then what happens is, because now we're talking about the authority figure. Here you go. You done put up with this unruly, untamed woman who don't take care of herself, don't take care of the kids, don't take care of the house. You barely like anything that she does, and she fat, and you turn around, you didn't tell her anything, and now 30 years later, you come to her and tell her, I don't want this no more. Found somebody better. Why? And then when she said, well, why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't want no conflict. Okay, there you go.
So
I put it out there.
Go
I
ahead.
didn't want to
Start
hurt your
this.
feelings. I didn't want to hurt your
I
feelings.
want to.
Well,
No,
Let's
the
start
Bible said do
this.
things that make for peace. So
Yes, first and foremost, a man must always use wisdom. So,
there you go.
so, and that's in preparation. That's in talking to your spouse first. Don't ever ask me a question that you're not willing to hear the blunt force, honest truth about. That's
Amen.
first and foremost. So when you do, be prepared to actually hear that. And don't get offended because my truth is
Mm,
not what you wanted to hear. And
Mm-hmm.
that's usually what the issue is. So,
Yes,
out
mm-hmm.
of all the things that you mentioned, we actually say them. Sometimes we don't say them directly, but we will say it indirectly. And it actually goes back to what I was saying a few weeks ago is that I communicate to you in the language that you understand. You
Mm-hmm.
communicate to me in the language that I understand, even when the languages are different. So when we are communicating that, you have to be savvy enough that when I'm saying something indirectly, that you hear it and understand that I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. I'm not trying to put you down, but this is what I'm recognizing. And what I'm recognizing is not enticing to me. So I also believe that we, as the man, should be the first partaker of anything that we disagree with our woman. So, meaning, if she's dressing a way that's not appealing to me, then let me freshen myself up and let me do some things to show her I like this right here. And that should entice her to change the way that she's dressing. Or when she puts something on and it's something that I really like, babe, you look real good in that, girl. I don't think I'm gonna make it. We may have to cut this short. So, but there are indirectly means of how that we speak that to you, but also we realize that women cannot handle the truth. Now, let me say that correctly. Not all women can
Someone.
handle
I
the
disagree.
truth.
I
But,
disagree
okay,
because
but
I think that
Agree
it
with you.
is an
Can I say something,
assumption
Ron?
that
Can I say
women
something?
cannot handle the truth. But
Can
I'm
I?
going to tell you that
Wait a minute.
indirect
Wait a minute.
that indirect approach is why a lot of relationships have failed. Because sometimes men try to be indirect when just say it. Just say it. If
True.
you just say it, the truth will set will what? Because if you say it, it's going to free me. And I because indirectly could mean sometimes, well, does he like my hair? Well, baby,
Yeah. But
no,
Tyrone hit it.
don't do the indirect. That's all I'm saying.
but
Okay.
Do
Can I say?
you
Sometimes
have
you
to.
have
Well,
to
I don't want
because
to.
Can I
Let's
say something?
Bishop,
let,
let
let,
Bishop
let
go, and then
Bishop.
Let me say
go
something,
ahead.
please. Yes. See, the Bible tells us this: speak the truth in love. We can say it. I don't believe in being indirectly. I believe in saying it, but the thing is, we have to put something in the treasure. In other words, before you can make a withdrawal from the bank, you have to make some deposits. In
Mhm.
other words, you have to deposit a whole lot of compliments before you can say something that's
Mhm.
not a compliment.
That's true.
If
True.
That's
you,
true.
if you tell her daily how good she look, how much you appreciate her, what she's doing right, then the thing that she's doing wrong, you can say it because you built her up to a point where her confidence is raised. But you just can't come and zap her. I mean, case in point would be
Yeah.
when we first got married. My wife cooked something for me, and I didn't like it. Instead of me doing it in love, I blew it. I didn't say it right. So it hurt her feelings. I mean, she took it and she got better because I don't think there's anyone in the world, any woman in the world that can beat her cooking. So she learned from it, but it hurt her. So what I'm saying is, as men, we can confront our wives, but we have to make sure that we have built her up to a point
Mhm.
where when we
I
say
like
it,
that.
it won't hurt. She'll
Yeah, I want
know.
to say. I know Pastor AT wants to say something. I just want to say one thing with that indirect. A lot of men do it indirectly by saying nothing.
Yes.
That's not good, because if I'm dressed up, if I, and I'm thinking I look good, and I think my weight is fine, and I think my hair is good, and you say nothing, that is too indirect. And then one day you come and I come out and ask, how do you like the way I wear my hair? Well, I really don't. Well, why couldn't you say that 4 weeks ago?
You dropped the bomb.
Indirectly, I know it doesn't work for me.
But honestly,
I can take it. I got a strong backbone. But I can take it.
What I understand is that there's not a one size fits all type of thing on
That's
this.
right.
Some women, and there's different levels of maturity. You know that there's some things that you can handle at 40 and 50 and 60 that you can't handle at 20, make you want to fight.
Right.
So now it depends on what level of maturity you are, how long you've been in this relationship, what was her previous relationship like? Was the person who did he talk about her? Was he mean? Was there an encourager? So you got to take all that into account. And here's the point. Women, their natural language is indirect language. But I tell everybody, every man needs to be bilingual to be able to speak something. Some things you have to say directly so she knows that this is where you stand. But some stuff she takes better when you say it in a smooth way. But like you said, doctor, make sure it has content behind it and don't be saying nothing. Where I get in trouble sometimes is where I say things and my wife calls it, her term is husband speak. That's the thing you're supposed to say because you're a husband. I said, no, because I'm a grown man. I'm attracted to you. This is what I think. This is what I would say. And it's better for me to say it than from somebody else outside. What I don't want is somebody else outside to say it, and it's the first time you've heard it.
Exactly.
So you're right. If there's an issue, it should be said. The problem is for men, here's the thing. For men, based off of the long-term trajectory of the family and what they need right now, weight may not be that big of an issue for them right now.
Right.
And unfortunately, they let things slide. Most men, and I just saw something like Pierce Brosnan's wife, they had a picture of her, how she's changed over the last 20 years. And he said that, and she was getting all this negative pub. And he said, I still love her. She's had 5 children. Because ultimately, men are not concerned about your weight. I'm going to be honest with you. Men really want a partnership. I want somebody who's going to build an empire with me and not tear me down so we can grow together. So your weight is the last thing. You can have surgery, gastric bypass, and all that kind of stuff. You can have lipo. You can get all that fixed after we make this money. But what I need is somebody who's going to be with me for the long term. And I know that no matter whether we have money, whether we don't, whether I'm fat, whether I'm skinny, that we're going to ride together and we're going to be here until the end. And that's where the trust comes. And as Bishop was saying, that you can, when you do have to say something that's a little harsh, they know that you're in there for the long haul and you ain't going nowhere, not because you can't go nowhere, because you choose not to.
Right.
That's right.
That's
Amen. And that's another thing. You're right. My thing is, if there's an issue, tell me, and I think about in our relationship, and it's funny. I was just listening to everybody, and Pastor would say, if there was something, he would say, I'm trying to think, how can I say this to you? Well, then I know it's something he has to tell me. So I'm like, just tell me. My thing is don't dance around the bush, especially if I know it's something that he needs to tell me or needs to address. And he comes that way, like, I want to say it, but I don't want to hurt your feelings. I'm like, no, I need to hear it. But it's not one size fit all. I can tough love is fine with me.
Yes.
I can handle that, but everybody can't handle tough love. So,
and not from everybody.
You know your spouse.
Right.
There's times where when you do need to be sensitive and when you do need to package it pretty. Yeah. And then there's some times where you don't need to package it at all. You just need to say it.
Right.
But here's the thing. What we don't realize is women on the flip side. Now, let me go back to the ladies. We don't have a problem saying what we want to say. We drop it out there.
Sometimes.
We put it out there. We say it. Most women do not have a problem telling the man
You respect the
what
man
they
in your
need,
life.
what
You're
they need
careful
to
at what
do,
you say
what
to
they
him.
don't like, how they don't like it. This is what you need to do. When I was growing up, this is how my dad did it. Then the whole 9 yards. So we don't have a lot of times a problem with uh, dishing it out, but then when we become super sensitive
When it's time to receive it.
when it's time to receive it.
Yep.
And I think that that's the harder thing, because men take some punches. They take punches on being a husband. They take punches on being a worker, a
A
father.
provider.
They take all the punches, and we sit
Mhm.
back, and I mean, we honestly, I'm talking probably about 80% of the women, especially again our culture, we say it. We don't care how we say it.
Right.
We don't step
But
back.
Bun,
Let me not hurt his feelings.
but that
And we
also comes with your level of maturity.
It
As
does.
someone
Yes,
said
Yeah,
earlier,
absolutely.
it comes with
as you
your
gain
yes,
maturity,
yes,
you
Okay,
gain a
can I
different language
let me
in
throw
how
this
you
out to
speak.
you.
yeah,
And so, not only that, but when you respect the man in your life, you're very cautious of what you say to him. No
Exactly.
different that when a man is has the same respect for the woman in his life, he's very cautious. It is not that we cannot be direct. At sometimes, in some ways, we have to be indirect, and that's using wisdom to the woman that's in our life. We know what you can handle directly. Babe, you messed up on that food tonight. That wasn't good at all. Look, you need to try something else. You can handle that. But then when it comes to, babe, you didn't got fat, that's offensive to some, and some cannot handle that. So being indirect, now I definitely deal with you. I definitely agree with you, Dr. V, is that you cannot be indirect by saying nothing. You
yeah.
can't do that.
Mm-mm.
And but we must always speak. And I like what Pastor AT said, is that men and women both must be bilingual. You have to be bilingual, because once the barrier of communication is built, it's hard to tear that down. And it's just simply just having a conversation. Some of the most informed, some of the most profound conversations happen while laying right on the pillow.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing um, with regard to on that same note. You have to know your spouse, and once again, when you're in your 20s, you grow, you're married, your 30s, things change. You should be maturing. You should know that your spouse, after a certain period of time, know their heart. Like, I know my husband's heart. I know he's not going to say something to me to offend me, but I also know that he is direct and straight to the point. We were just at a funeral in Alabama, and Pastor Melanie and Lady V, I'll tell you, I was so sharp until it was pathetic. But my top was too short for the one piece that I had on. And my husband walked up to me and he said, "You need to put on a longer top." I came back upstairs, went in that wardrobe, and had to pray. You're away from home. And a longer top popped out. I put that top on and I came down, and he said to me, he said, "Got it." But that's me. It's not one size fit all, like you said, but you also have to know who you're married to. My
Mhm.
husband is not the type of person, he's not going to beat around the bush. He's just going to say it. I think Lady V can attest to that. He's going to come out and say it. If it's blue, it's going to be blue. He's not going to say, "Well, lighten it up a little." He's not that kind of person. So it pays to know the person you're married to, and then you will know whether you should take this as an offense or take it for what it's worth.
Mhm.
Okay,
It's some
I,
things the thing is, some things are for me.
Yeah,
There's
say that
some
again.
tricks.
that's
There's
good.
some tricks that Dr. B has that I should only be privileged to,
Amen.
and some things that in dress that other people can enjoy. So when she's around me alone, then that's appropriate. But when she go out in public, I don't want her showing certain things. That's just, my preference. In other
Right.
words, I want you to look like a lady, if I can use that term, because you're not on display.
Hmm.
You belong to me.
Right.
So I felt, well, that's a little bit too, you know. So I said, well, babe, I think you should put on something that would kind of come down a little bit. And and she didn't give me any.
Nope.
She just went back up and changed, and it looked better.
Can I say
Pastor
this?
AT wanted to say something.
Yeah, it's something based off of what Lady V said. It's interesting to me, and for I know everyone who hears this is not a Christian, right? And so some things you just have to take as practical knowledge and stuff, right?
Right.
But in Corinthians, when Paul is talking to the church, he essentially, if you read that text, he gives like 18 different things that the husband is included to what he's supposed to do.
Hmm.
And the wife only has like one or two, which
Yeah.
is submit, which it means, and people have issue with that, let's say compliment, whatever. But what that tells me, and I preached on this before, is that if a great relationship is supposed to work, the onus is 18, like they say 20 things make it work. 18 of those things are on the husband. So what my wife told me early on, she's like, you can't do the same things that I do because the rules are different. The rules, I said, that don't sound fair. It's not fair. But the person who's in authority has more effect over those underneath them. So, like to your point, why she get to say whatever she want? Because she ain't in authority. She say whatever she want to say. She can go crazy if she want to, and then to speak whatever she want to, and that's between her and God. But I have to cover her as God says to cover the church in love until she gets her act together. So I can guarantee right now, and I don't say it to her. I hope she ain't listening, but I don't say it to her because she the type that we're like, oh, I'm doing this, then I'm gonna go this way. But over the last 5 years of us being married, I can see the change gradually because I speak with her with grace and peace, and I'm not trying to change her. And all I'm trying to do is love her. And I'm doing my 18 things, and all she's doing is working on her 2 things because she can handle those 2 things, and that makes the relationship work. If she want to get up to 3 or 4 things and all that kind of stuff, to God be the glory. But the onus is still on me to make this thing work. And I think when we get this understanding that the rules are not the same, we say we equal and all that kind of stuff, but when it comes to a biblical type of thing, the rules are not the same. Men are responsible, and we're responsible. We can't act a fool when they act a fool. I can't be petty when she be petty. She want to burn all the food and cut clothes. I can't do all that to her shoes and her makeup and all that kind of stuff because we tear down the house. And although I will heal faster because I'm not as emotional as she is, she will hold on to that hurt for years. 10 years later, talking about, you remember when you threw my red bottoms away? You remember when you cut all my dresses up because you said they were club dresses and all this kind of stuff? Those are things that she will remember, and it will have a lasting effect in a negative way.
But
so
I
if we
want
do
to
that, I
say
think we'll do better.
that
I'm sorry.
Aunt Regina just made a comment, and she said, no one gains weight overnight. If that's an issue, you have to approach the issue when you first see it. You can't be indirect 5 years and be direct when you see it. But be sweet and respectful about it. And I think that that's the thing that I drive home when we were talking earlier in the relationship rules. We wait so long to address an issue, and I feel like it's so unfair to the person that you're in the relationship with, because when you first see it and you don't address it and you just let it go and you let it go, she didn't just all of a sudden become controlling. She just didn't all of a sudden become unruly. She didn't just all of a sudden become whatever you don't like. So now you done let this go, and this is a major issue. And this is not just with people who are outside of Christ. This is in the body of Christ. This is what's tearing up relationships. We wait so long to let a person know, whether you do it directly or indirectly, what is the issue. Because if you love me, If you're my friend, you're my lover, you're my husband, you're my everything, why is it that you will allow yourself to put up with whatever is making you unhappy with me for so long, and then all of a sudden now we done invested time, we done invested money, we done bought houses, cars, everything, and now we in it. I'm thinking we're in it, you're thinking we're in it, and now 30, 40 years later, you tell me, oh, well, I've had this problem from day one.
Yes.
What?
So I definitely agree what Miss Regina is saying. But let's go back to the direct side. Most men, if weight is one of the issues for them, they say that very directly. Usually, the woman is offended because we have mentioned your weight. Uh, so some things have to be said indirectly. It's just the nature, and you can't look at it as in this is how that I want it. You can't look at it that way because just because you want it that way, the next woman doesn't, and the next woman may not be able to handle exactly what you can handle directly. Um, I want to hit this just like Pastor AT said, is that a man has 18 different responsibilities as
Just
it
as an
is
example.
in the word, right? So the most powerful thing that I heard, and this is some years ago, is when someone said to me, I never knew how much that you cared, considered, did, and protected this family until you left. It is just that simple how that women can take for granted what a man does because number one, we don't speak and we don't look for the accolades of what our responsibilities are.
Amen.
And when we're about our business of handling our responsibilities, it's just that we're handling our responsibilities. We don't need the actual, oh baby, yeah, yeah, this, and I'm so glad that you did that. But when we do hear it, it does make us feel good. So to keep the topic on what a man is looking for, we want the woman in our life that we can speak to as our wife and tell her what our deepest fears are and what our deepest concerns are. And she can be the one to counsel us into motivating us to make sure that whatever those fears are, that she got you covered.
Mm,
Well, I'd
okay.
like to get back to the weight situation. Well, when it comes to weight, uh, I think one of the brothers said it earlier. You get, you ought to be what you want. In other words,
Hmm.
weight is a problem in a relationship. Then both parties should work on their weight.
Hmm.
Now, when it comes to my wife and we like, I like her size and she like my size because we understand that too much weight can be a problem health wise.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So we try to keep our weight down uh, to for ourselves, not so much for each other, but for ourselves
Hmm.
because we like to look a certain way. Now, if the other person don't have a problem with your weight, then that's fine, But if the other person is heavy, so to speak, and they're trying to come at you about your weight, that's not right.
No,
You should be what you want.
right.
Hmm.
So what I'm saying is, we are we're being what we want. We like a certain size, so she and she like a certain size, so we keep our weight down.
Yeah, I want to say one thing with regard to Pastor AT. He said something that's really powerful. The weight thing, the this thing, and all that. That can come. That's down the road. Let's take care of the major things. And that's true. But I want to ask Dr. Isaac a question. How do you indirectly address something, as far as a person's weight? How do you indirectly? I mean, you got to teach me that because I'm a
Yeah, when
counselor and I use that. How do you indirectly?
Okay. It goes back to knowing the person that you are in relationship with.
That's
Mhm.
true.
And in knowing them, we know exactly what they can handle directly, what we should know when we studied them. Um, when you, okay, so I tell you what I did.
I'm talking about this one
Yes.
specific thing. Wait.
So I'm gonna tell you how that I did it.
Oh,
I
okay.
did it like this. Um, I said that, hey, I went and got you a gym membership. I paid for it, and you got 2 years
That's
worth
so
of the
direct.
membership.
Oh my God.
So,
That is not indirect at all.
Oh,
but look, hold on. But also,
No,
the indirect way is that I
that's
said,
the
let's
answer.
go for a walk. I didn't gotta say why we going for this walk, but let's go for a walk. And
okay.
that became a repetitive thing. And then it was like, hey, I'm noticing this, and that's something that I don't like, and I was in my 20s then, so I was kind of a little buck wild then. So, but I was like, and then the indirect way changed into the direct way.
Okay.
Look, I don't like this.
Okay.
Look, I'm 20. I'm looking good. I'm building. I got this six pack. I need you to look like this too. I'm just saying. So, you know, you can start in an indirect way with some things, but it should lead to the direct way.
Okay. I got
Indirect
No,
you.
okay.
isn't working, and
For the
that's why
example,
you
okay,
got to have that bilingual.
yeah. I tell you, at this point, I'm pretty much fluid. I would say, for example, usually when you for the food piece, you're either eating out a lot or eating bad foods and stuff, and you're bringing it home, those type things. But some of those things you can say, babe, can we save some money and start cooking more? Because I think first of all, it'll be healthier for us, and we'll save a lot of money. Hey, babe, it's a nice day. You want to go walking with me? Now,
Mhm,
if she doesn't accept, that's fine. But she knows that you're offering her, and she come on.
mhm,
All the stuff that we said, the women also know when they look in the mirror, based off social media and everything else. Women are very in tune with how they look more so than anybody. Men may not care as much, but they do. So if the man is asking her to do certain things, as I saw the comments say, go to the gym. Like me and my wife, we would go to the gym. I'm about to start working, clear up my home gym or whatever. And she said, well, I may start going out there with you. Yeah, I got to move on this because before she's
mhm.
like, I don't want to go out there because there may be some spiders or something like that. Okay, but now she says, I'm interested. It's on me to be the supportive husband and let her get to her goals. Okay, whether we go to Planet Fitness or whether we go to Robinson Fitness, she have the opportunity to do what she wants to do.
Right.
And
Right.
so there's ways to say it, but you got to be creative, and it has to come
Yes.
from a good place and from where your heart is.
Hmm.
Well, everyone, this
Listen, if it's an
has
issue, because some men don't have an issue with a woman being a little thick. So,
I like a
this
little
has been
thickness
such
myself.
an awesome show.
amen.
We are actually almost 2 minutes out of time, and we can't go over. But oh my God, this has been a great discussion. We welcome everybody to continue to make comments on our comment page. But we've been talking about today relationship rules. What do men really want out of a woman? And this has been a really great conversation. We thank Bishop Eddie Bennett for being on our show today, my dad. We thank Pastor AT for being on the show. Definitely appreciate all of your comments. I am your host, Lady V. We got Dr. Yvonne Bennett, Pastor Melanie Butler, and Dr. Isaac Davis. Listen, next week we are changing the time of the show. You will get notification. We are going to be airing on Tuesday at 6 o'clock. So look for all of the videos and flyers that's going to go out, and don't forget to share with your friends. But until next week, remember, you have a voice. Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Let me get out of here.
How do I get off?